In Colorado, prenups hold up as long as you do them correctly. So not all prenups hold up. Sometimes you get to court and the judge finds that it wasn't done adequately. So in order to do it adequately and make sure that it does hold up in the event of a divorce or a death, you need to make sure that you do it the right way. Doing it the right way includes adequate financial disclosures. That's probably the most important part of ensuring that your premarital agreement is enforceable. And what that means is that both sides have to exchange everything, even if you're not agreeing to anything relevant to a particular piece of property or account, you still have to share it. And the thought behind that is that both parties can't agree to something if they don't know what's on the table. The court won't hold an agreement, such as a premarital agreement, enforceable if the court doesn't feel like both of you really knew what you were agreeing to at the time. So in order to know what you are agreeing to, both parties have to exchange all of their financial disclosures. It's certainly not required to have an attorney for a premarital agreement to be enforceable, but having an attorney on at least one side, if not both sides, can help make sure that you adequately exchange financial disclosures, that your agreement includes provisions about things you might not have thought of, and just make sure that it follows the law. So while it might be possible to just get a premarital agreement online and fill in some blanks, that might not be catered to your specific situation. That might not include pieces of property that you already have or that you're anticipating having at some point during the marriage. So having a lawyer, at least on one side, if not both sides, of the agreement can ensure that you are exchanging everything, including everything relevant in your premarital agreement, and having it signed and notarized properly so that you have the best chance for it to hold up, no matter what comes up down the road. A few reasons why premarital agreements don't hold up in court include a lack of adequate financial disclosures. So both parties did not exchange everything that they had at the time or did not exchange everything that they had at the time to the right level. Fraud. So if either person lies during the premarital process about something relevant to the agreement, that can be a reason that it isn't held up, depending on what the fraud is about. Or duress, if either party feels like they were forced into the agreement or were threatened with something if they didn't sign the agreement, can be another reason that it doesn't hold up in court. In order to have a premarital agreement, you don't have to have any certain net worth or a ton of properties or even a lot of money in your bank account. You might have next to nothing right now, but that could change over the course of your marriage. Having a premarital agreement means that you get to decide your own game plan. Whether you like it or not, the government has a game plan already written for you and your soon-to-be spouse, and you can stick with that game plan if you'd like, but it's usually better if you and your soon-to-be spouse get to write your own game plan about what will happen in the event of a divorce or a death, so that you can chart your own path forward through your future. In Colorado, premarital agreements are essentially contracts that parties sign before they get married, which lays down what the two of you would like to happen in the event of either a divorce or a death of one of you. The state of Colorado already has rules in place. The general law, Colorado statutes, will provide what happens in the event of a dissolution, divorce, or death for parties who don't have a premarital agreement. But for parties who do have a premarital agreement, they get to make their own rules. Maybe you don't want to split certain pieces of property that would otherwise be shared. Maybe you do want to share things that otherwise would not be shared. Premarital agreements allow you to sit down, determine what's important to you, determine how property should be handled both during the marriage and after the marriage. The process of actually getting a premarital agreement done is pretty simple. So first you talk with us and we'll establish what your goals are and what's most important to you. And we use that to turn it into the contract. We draft up the premarital agreement. After that, we'll send it to your soon-to-be spouse for them to review and approve. If they have any edits or suggestions or things that they would like included, then we make those edits, make sure both parties are in agreement about everything included in the agreement. We also have to exchange financial disclosures so that both parties know everything that's on the table before they can agree with what to do what's on the table. You need to know what's there. And then once both parties are satisfied with the agreement and feel that it is in line with what they had intended, then we sign it, we get it notarized, we give it back to you, and it usually gets shoved in a drawer until it's needed in the event of a dissolution or a death. Premarital agreements can also be amended. So, say there's a new piece of property or a new bank account or a new business that comes into existence during your marriage that you hadn't anticipated when you originally drafted the premarital agreement. You can make an amendment. Just draft up a quick additional agreement that says this piece of property is now a part of the marriage. This is what we would like to do to it. And we again sign and notarize that agreement, keep it with the old premarital agreement, and it's all treated as one contract, one agreement. So they're infinitely customizable for your own marriage, for your own life, and for unanticipated things that, of course, come up in life. A postmarital agreement or postnup is essentially the same thing as a premarital agreement or prenup, but it's agreed to after the marriage. So, say you and your spouse are already married, but you want to make your own game plan about your property and what will happen to it in the event of a dissolution. That's also possible. If you're already married, you can still come into us with those goals, with what property you have or anticipate having in the future, and we will write them down into a contract that you and your spouse can agree on and will be treated essentially the same way as a premarital agreement in court. Some scenarios where a postnup can be useful include if you start a new business, if you come into an inheritance that maybe you weren't anticipating when you originally drafted your premarital agreement, or just general life changes. Maybe you have two homes now. Maybe you get a new condo. Maybe one of you lives in a different state. A postmarital agreement can handle all of these unique arrangements. If you have any more questions about premarital or postmarital agreements in Colorado, reach out to NewLeaf Family and book your free case evaluation.